Buddy, I provided these awesome state-of-the-art spotlights for our recording sessions, but I can't lie, they make this place hot like hell. Did you get those new noiseless special recording fans that I told you about?
Unfortunately, there's been an incident at the factory. They couldn't tell me what went wrong, something with the employees. Anyway, don't worry. Jimmy's lamps? Buddy's fans!
Peters lamp. Peters fan.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage.
And I'm Deniz, the Buddymeister.
And since this year marks the centenary of legendary Bengali filmmaker Satyajit Ray, we continue to go through his wonderful filmography, and today's movie is the 1971 drama Seemabaddha, aka Company Limited.
Seemabaddha is the second part of Ray's so-called Kolkata-Trilogie, with Pratidvandi and Jana Aranya being the other two. It won the Fipresci Award at the 33rd Venice International Film Festival, as well as the National Award for Best Feature Film. The movie is based on a novel of the same name by Mani Shankar Mukherjee, and it stars Barun Chanda and Sharmila Tagore in the lead roles.
I have read that it's not regarded as one of Ray's best films, and sure, I would agree, but because of that I was also having rather low expectations, and I have to say that I was thoroughly enjoying the film. It almost appeared like something that Ray was just creating effortlessly between more elaborate projects. Which doesn't mean that Company Limited isn't deep or artistic, quite the opposite. Once again you can feel Ray's great sense for details and his care for his characters and their relationships. But somehow the movie has an easier vibe to it.
Absolutely. I think the structure of this movie, how the characters are built, how the story progresses and how things come to a head, including the social and economic criticism that's inherent through the whole movie but more evident towards the end, is told in a pretty clear-cut way and not as complex as in some of Ray's other movies.
Well put. Now the story of Company Limited revolves around Shirmal Chatterjee, played by Barun Chanda, an ambitious sales manager at a lamps and fan manufacturing company in Kolkata, where he's kind of in the middle of a grudge match for a promotion. Life goes on pretty smoothly, especially when his sister-in-law Tutul, played by Sharmila Tagore, comes to visit him and his wife, and she's just overwhelmed by the high society lifestyle that includes fine dinners, going to the races or going to the beauty parlor. So everything works just fine. But when Sharma learns that a very important consignment of fans is defective just before shipping, he needs to take extreme measures.
Sharmal's story is actually beginning with him pointing out that there are millions of unemployed people in West Bengal right now, but luckily he's not one of them. We get a nice little introductory montage narrated by him in which he tells us about his exemplary promising career, in which one step was answering all the questions the manager of his firm had for him, which he did with ease. It's the textbook example of making a career in the big city.
In The Adversary, we had a protagonist who was very open and direct about his answers at a job interview, which led to him not getting it. So we are definitely seeing a different side of things here. But Company Limited's story is of course again all about how the economy and the job market affect the young and educated people in the big city.
Seemabaddha was shot and set in one of the city's most tumultuous times, when regular bombings and shootings had become a normal thing of daily life. And while it is an ever-present topic in this movie, we're still getting a different setting here. We're located in the world of career-making people. We're in office buildings and at cocktail parties and on the racetracks. It's an interesting everyday life scenario.
And very early on we are introduced to the immoral facets of this environment.
Something doesn't feel right there, does it?
Well, for one, the interaction between the female and the male workers at Hindustan Peters, that's the name of the company, feels really uncomfortable. This sexism is totally tolerated. Even Shirmal is making a remark about the hair of one of the female employees, and it is clearly presented in a way that shows you that she's not really comfortable with it. It's actually one of the first scenes in the film.
Later there's also this very uncomfortable situation where the senior top director of the company isn't stopping to stare at Tutul, while Shirmal is trying to downplay it, saying that the guy's actually quite harmless.
It was refreshing to see this addressed in a film that's already 50 years old.
Oh yes, because it's also easy to just say, well, it was the 70s, that's how things were back then. But in this movie you feel that this isn't right, no matter where, no matter when.
Exactly. Now, we already talked about the high society that Shirmal and his wife are a part of, and Company Limited has a nice way of inviting us to this world. We already talked about a few things, but they also have a lush apartment. They are literally living above others, because it's more comfortable on the higher floors. Shirmal's wife Dolan, played by Paromita Chowdhury, at one point says that there is less dust, dirt, mosquitoes and flies.
They have a nice lifestyle, no doubt about that, but it of course comes at a price, because everything in Shyamalan's life revolves around work and is about being someone or becoming someone. They have a young son, but he's at a boarding school. We only see him once in a small scene while Shyamalan reads an endearing letter that he sent them. We learn that everything is structured and calculated in the lives of Shyamalan and Dolan.
But Shyamalan isn't a cold-blooded career opportunist either, and you definitely share sympathies for him. And the movie also doesn't give you any crucial reason to dislike or hate him, at least to some point. The first half of the movie establishes the world, the promising future, the themes and tensions. Now the second half introduces the big conflict that jeopardizes everything for him, and that's where our opinion of him drastically changes.
I thought it was quite fascinating how our perception of Shyamalan is led throughout the movie, because the ominous, somehow menacing music that underscores the opening credits while we see Shyamalan in a car kind of already shaped a certain image of him for me. That of determination, aspiration, but also mercilessness and uncertainty.
That's interesting, because all of these, let's call them characteristics, are also perceived by his fellows, and so the image that they have of him changes as well, especially for Tutul. At one point she says to Shyamalan, "It seems dangerous to listen to you." She realizes that something is going on with him.
There is this great scene where Shyamalan shows Tutul the meeting room at the company and he talks about success and determination, and for me it sounded like he's talking of some kind of higher calling for greatness or something. Like he's almost a little bit out of touch with the real world, which also fits because this business world has its own rules in a way. But again, it's so fascinating how we slowly learn how Shyamalan works.
Yes, and through that progression he finally crosses the line and becomes the immoral career guy in a system that he actually despised so very much. He's the one who has complained about the rotten system, but he ultimately becomes what he condemned.
It's quite a poetic narrative, and the irony behind it is gut-wrenching, to be honest. Barun Chanda gives a wonderful performance.
Yes, he's the perfect fit for this character. He's tall and slender, there's a certain shrewdness in his face that also conveys this uncertainty that we talked about. But he's also able to be warm and sensitive.
I love the relationship between him and Tutul. Barun Chanda and Sharmila Tagore have great chemistry. There's so much going on between the two of them. Expectations from the past, a romantic spark, envy and regret. It's fascinating how the character of Tutul works and what her role in all of this is.
Similar to Ray's 5 years prior realized film Nayok, Sharmila Tagore's character again appears to be a little bit like the conscience of our hero.
There's this one scene where she stands in the doorway of her room and says goodnight. The camera is on the other side of the room with Shyamalan, who stands in his doorway, and there is wind coming through the window and the curtains are flying. And in that moment she almost appears to be some kind of ghost or entity that captures Shyamalan's mind.
Yeah, they have a really special connection. I mean, he even tells Tutul things that he doesn't tell his wife. That's of course another aspect of this strange transformation that Shyamalan goes through.
There are some nice recurring elements in this movie that emphasize this change, like the pack of cigarettes or the watch, of course. Or the metaphor with the elevator in the end when Shyamalan has to use the stairs. It's simple but still striking.
It's such a powerful ending, and the closing shot that I'm not going to spoil, even though the movie's already 50 years old, is fantastic. All I can say is that Shyamalan did not only lose the respect of Tutul, he lost his self-respect as well.
So what would we say in German about Seemabaddha?
Der zweite Film von Rays Kolkata-Trilogie wirkt wie eine leichte Fingerübung, doch das ist er wirklich nicht. Stattdessen führt uns der Meister einmal mehr seine feine Beobachtungsgabe vor Augen, indem er sozialer und ökonomischer Ungerechtigkeit mit poetischer Gerechtigkeit entgegenwirkt. I give Company Limited 8 out of 10. It's more like 7.9, but I don't do that.
For me, it's also 8 out of 10. It's more like 8.2, but I don't do that either. Did you know that the original ceiling fan supposedly was invented by a duchess with the name Melissa Rinaldi? It was manually operated and powered by water. The electronic ceiling fan that we know now was invented by the German-American engineer Philipp Diehl in 1887.
Interesting. So, what are your thoughts about Company Limited? Leave a comment and hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and also on Patreon, simply at The Jimmy Cage.
And you can hit me up on Twitter at The Buddymeister.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all we have to tell.